A program note for everyone out there. We are number one on Shoutcast for any talk show. About 18 or 19 rated total for Shoutcast. Hundreds of thousands of people every hour tune in to listen over the internet just on that system. We have over 100,000 people a day downloading the free podcast at Infowars.com. That's recorded here in-house. So if there's any blurps or internet outages that happen occasionally as we get more and more traffic and beef up our system, you will not hear those problems generally in the podcast. So subscribe to that to listen how you want, when you want, where you want. Now, obviously, with over 60 AM and FM affiliates, and we've just gotten 3 or 4 more in the last week, so it's actually growing. I need to revise the list. Probably over 70 stations now. That's where the lion's share of the audience is. You could have hundreds of thousands per station with a station like News Radio 590 KLBJ or 1330 that covers half of Texas that's up in Taylor, or a KCAA that goes into San Diego and places there in California, or a KCXL. We've been on about 9 years in Kansas City, covering that entire city and surrounding areas out of Liberty, Missouri. But the shortwave is great as well as a world service we do for everybody. We have satellite systems people can listen over, several different satellite systems. It's all very important, but the internet is special because it puts us everywhere. You know, you can tell your friends, your family, your neighbors, even if you don't have a local AM or FM affiliate, or even if they don't, hey, you can listen at Infowars.com, or you can listen at PrisonPlanet.com. And that's what's so great about the web. It is basically everywhere in the industrialized world, and now even in the third world and old world. And so that's why it's so important. And yes, we've had hundreds of calls about, whenever our connection to our big servers goes down, James Bond music will play for 5-10 minutes. That is our servers going down. The problem is, too, if we don't have it on these server farms and CDNs, when it goes down, then that basically knocks out our Shoutcast rating, and we like being number one on there because we get new listeners that way, but we're just going to have to give up our ranking because the number one thing is getting the message out and split the streams up into dozens of streams, not just 5 or 6 big streams. Also, there's other ways to listen. We have tens of thousands every show that listen on the Windows stream that comes out of another server system, and people are now using that a lot. And, of course, that's an unrated stream. That's an internal stream. But you can go to Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com and click on the Flash Player window to listen that way. If you hear outages on the Genesis streams, because those get maxed out, or on the Infowars streams, we have that Windows stream there for you as well. Because the internet is so important, because it's a key place that we virally spread the message. Then YouTube videos, live leak videos. People make hundreds of videos with audio from the show. You cut it up. You condense it down. All of you out there doing a great job. So please keep that up. Okay. Without further ado, I'm really excited to get to introduce to you Peter Joseph. Peter Joseph, of course, made Zeitgeist, which I would say is the second most viewed video. Just from my analysis in internet history, I would still say that Loose Change is number one, but that's because it's been out longer. In the future, it remains to be seen, but the two films definitely are the most viewed in viral history on the internet. And the maker, Peter Joseph, has now made a Zeitgeist Addendum, another 2-hour film, very well done. He works in professional TV. And he did this on his own, though. It's excellent. And he went out and actually did a lot of interviews and things for it as well, not just internet clips that he combined for the first Zeitgeist. And I agree with about 90% of what is in the film. I think that the interpretation, the subtle way it's put out, people are going to misinterpret a lot of it. That was my point, criticizing some of it earlier in the week. I also think that it's another form of orthodoxy to make fun on a high horse of religious groups and people who are religious. Because, the human mind, human sight and smell only picks up a very narrow spectrum of reality. That's been scientifically proven. Is there a lot of quackery and superstition and kooky stuff going on out there? Certainly. And that's why I get away from, organized religion myself. But I think that in a way it actually divides people that both films have decided attacks on religion, especially Christianity. And I'm allowed to have that view and say that I don't particularly agree with that. I don't hate Peter Joseph because of his views. I don't look down on him. I don't even judge him. I just am allowed to have my view that I think that that is itself a little bit closed-minded. That doesn't mean that I buy into every superstition out there. And conversely, people like to start fights between any, big alternative media movement icons or films. I have a lot of Zeitgeist people that attack me and say horrible things about me, and they're not Zeitgeist people, but people that are followers of the film or use the name as a maxim or a logo, kind of like the shingle or the flag they fly. And then a lot of folks who call themselves Alex Jones listeners who viciously attack Zeitgeist because of its anti-Christian bent. And then that's probably why the Zeitgeist folks are attacking me, and then my people are attacking them more. And then then that kind of creates with myself a subconscious disliking for it, because then I get attacked by a lot of extreme closed-minded Christians and Muslims and religionists out there who get mad that my footage is in Zeitgeist. He put it in there first, and later he said, hey, can I use it? And I said, fine. And he has the rights to use the footage that he has in the first Zeitgeist now, because I'm actually for open discussion and things being out there, and a lot of people found my work because of Zeitgeist. So, I believe that we can take good out of even things that I see as not, effective or true in Zeitgeist itself. So with that said, as my opening statement, I want to bring Peter Joseph up on the air and let him have an opening statement about himself, Zeitgeist, and where all of this is going. Peter, great to have you here.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate you having me on, and I'm glad you pointed out what you did. I think a lot of people listening to this cast are going to, sit there waiting for some type of duke out between you and I. And debate is really an infantile disposition. I think discussion and open discussion is what we need to engage in. We learn from each other, and that's what a society should really be thinking when we engage ideas that are conflicting from one belief system to another. Competition, things like this that we think are naturally bred into us, dispositions of winning. These are things I would like to address today. I know you have different dispositions, as you stated, for example, in your October 8th broadcast. And before I begin any of that, however, since you did bring up Christianity, first thing, I'm not attacking Christians whatsoever. I think anybody who pays attention to what I've stated, as far as the first film, I go into the historical bases of Christianity, and then I linger into the philosophical dispositions and how it's very restrictive of the human mind. In the second film, I detail how essentially the belief system itself is based on a rejection of new information. And this is very important and very difficult to deny when you get into faith-based ideologies. And the whole encompassment, if that's a word, of the second film is to really try to pull people into a train of thought that's aligned with nature. And that's why I present the Venus Project, and that's why I present these seemingly spooky things that people have been conditioned to fear, such as centralization of power. But it's not centralization of power in the orthodox manner that many people think to be true or fearful of, or what history has presented. Because the flaw of our society at its very core is that it has not addressed the root problems of what we're doing. And those root problems are sourced in human behavior, not secret societies or elites or even human instinct. We have to look at the environment and what the environment is producing. And then from there, we'll know the resolutions. And that's what I'd like to talk about today with you.
Well, Peter, out of the gates, global warming has become a religion. The environment is important. The load of the earth is important. But technologies, as you and the experts you interview have rightly assessed, we can transcend all those problems. And that is being suppressed by the elites who want to continue a cartel or an oligopoly. But, you talk about the load of the earth and, running things according to the load of the earth. Well, the controllers, they're already using that. And saying we are going to, as a technocracy, as a scientific system, we are going to scientifically design society, and we're saying carbon dioxide's bad when that's what plants breathe, and one of the four major elements, light, water, carbon dioxide, and oxygen, that make life possible here. So see, out of the gates, there's that oversimplification. I think it's important to have the discussion. It's just the way it can be interpreted that's a religion too. There is a religious belief that carbon dioxide is bad and evil and a toxic waste.
Yeah, there's also a religious belief that the free market system is the end-all to our progress as a civilization. They're all religious beliefs in their own accord if they're not addressed in a highly intellectual and scrutinizing manner. The best form of reference for that type of disposition or analysis, if you will, is what you refer to as the scientific method. Everything that we have, well, first of all, let me counter one thing. Essentially, what you're seeing with this ruling elite that you refer to, that, of course, they will use technology against humanity, the microchip, surveillance. We're seeing this rampantly. Why? Because their social system is failing. They have to preserve the structure. At least that's my opinion, and we can go into more detail for that. However, they are totally out of line with nature. So what they're implying will never really work, because it will just produce more instability, that people will eventually rise up above it, because the system is emergent, and we are always learning new things, and things that do not work as the emergence proceeds will be phased out. And this is where social stratification and all of these different elements come into play. You see, I'm not talking about, for example, on your October 8th interview, your review of the piece, you implied to your audience that there would be this eradication of the social structure. Remember when you said that? As though that someone's going to come around with a gun and shoot people that are involved in the wrong type of social stratification. That is not at all what this idea is about whatsoever. The eradication notion comes from the disposition that human awareness, human value systems will be altered as the society is culminated in more alignment with nature itself. Now, that's a very difficult thing to
Yeah, well, how do you
understand.
gauge the